Day 17. Both tribes arrive to their mats and Justin confirms that Hupai voted out Liana last tribal council. Huhu immediately looks at Boo Boo, wondering how he's feeling. Justin then lets everyone know that after 17 days of blood, sweat, and tears, the two tribes will now merge into one tribe. This means everyone can play as an individual now. However, there is still one more thing to get to. Justin then calls out for Jaya and Liana to come on out. They both come out and stand next to him. Justin then reveals that since Liana was last voted out, her rival, Boo Boo, will need to decide on her possible fate today. He can either send her home right now, which allows Jaya to automatically re-enter the game, or he can keep her and give her a fighting chance in the redemption challenge right now. Justin asks Boo Boo what he has decided to do, and he says that since day one, he told himself he'd never be part of his daughter's downfall. Unfortunately, he did the unthinkable yesterday and eliminated her, so he wants to undo his wrong and give her another crack at the game. He decides to keep her for redemption. With that, Justin congratulates Liana and tells both her and Jaya that they will now compete for their spot back into the game, where they will join the other 11 in the individual merge phase. In this challenge, both must use a bucket to stomp on fruits and vegetables. For each fruit or vegetable, they must bring them to the bucket and drop them in it. Then, they must stomp on them so they become crushed. Once done, they must pour the mushy drink into a bottle and return to the start to grab the next fruit or vegetable. The first person to finish filling up 3 drinks and return to their starting mat will win their way back into the game. The fruits and vegetables they must stomp on are grapes, then apples, and finally potatoes. The challenge begins, and both women head to their bucket and pour their grapes into it. They both get into the bucket and begin stomping on the grapes. At one point, Liana falls onto her grapes and struggles to get back up, losing her some time. A little bit later, Jaya also falls but quickly gets back up. Jaya then gets up to try filling up her drink bottle, and Liana notices, so she also gets out to fill up her bottle. They both successfully fill their bottles and Jaya is back to her food containers before Liana, picking out her apples. Jaya heads out with her apples while Liana tries to find hers, putting Jaya in a bit of a lead. Jaya gets into her bucket and begins stomping. Liana is close behind and immediately slips while getting into her bucket. Once again, Liana falls. And again, she falls. Liana struggles to get up after many rough falls, giving Jaya an extended lead. Jaya finally decides to get out and Liana is right behind, trying to catch up. Jaya successfully fills the bottle, and despite her struggles, Liana crushed her apples just enough that her bottle filled, meaning both women are neck and neck. Jaya gets her potatoes a bit before Liana, but Liana isn't far behind. They both begin crushing their potatoes. Liana falls at one point, but so does Jaya. They both race to crush their final vegetables. Jaya thinks she did enough, and Liana hesitates for a few seconds but also decides to get out. They both try to fill their bottles, and Jaya does so successfully, returning to her mat first and winning the redemption challenge. Liana catches her breath and calls out "Good game" to Jaya. Justin confirms that Jaya will rejoin the game as the 12th member of the merged tribe. As a result, Liana is technically the 8th person eliminated now. He tells her to say her goodbyes and head out, and she does. Liana's final thoughts. Despite being given a second chance at the game, Liana doesn't think of her father any differently than before. She still thinks he's an evil, selfish person who has tried to manipulate her into thinking he's a good person. She's glad to have at least experienced Survivor without him for the majority of her time. This game is a dream come true for her. Jaya joins the other 11 by the mats and Justin confirms they have all officially merged. They all clap and Justin hands out new buffs for all 12 people. Everyone opens their buff and they all find out their tribe color is blue. Justin lets them know they will need to come up with a tribe name before tomorrow's reward challenge. In addition, this next round is the last time someone will be voted out in the pre-jury phase. This means the jury phase will begin once the game is down to 11 players. Justin lets them know they can all head to their brand new merge camp, so they walk off. All 12 players arrive to their brand new merge camp. It's much bigger than their old camps with the addition of more tables, benches, and fire pits. Mark immediately talks to Anna, telling her he's glad to reunite with her, Boo Boo, and Karen. She tells him the same thing, which gets him excited as he reveals that he was likely the next to go on his previous tribe. He says that it was evident Tanner and Adriana were going to gun for him as the easy merge physical threat, so he's glad his tribe won immunity. Anna says the two of them will talk more later, but she reminds him they are still allied up, even with Romero gone. Meanwhile, Eric talks with Adriana and Tanner, telling them he's very nervous about this merge. He hopes the two of them can help protect him by putting in a good word for him to the other Hupai people. Adriana says she will surely talk to people like Anna and Boo Boo and let them know he's worthy for their group. Ivy chats with Karen for the first time and instantly loves her vibe. Karen tells Ivy that she currently doesn't have any relationship with her ex-original tribe. Therefore, if it comes down to it, she will surely vote one of them out. However, there is one problem she is facing. Since Tanner is now on the tribe with her, she's becoming extremely paranoid and feels uneasy around him. Ivy tells her she felt the same when she was with Mark, but they got over each other fairly quick and are now used to living with each other. Karen hates the thought of living with Tanner and says she doesn't know if she would feel comfortable keeping him for the jury phase. Later on, Eric decides to clean up the camp. He throws away a bag of leaves and then notices something next to the bin. He picks it up and realizes it's a hidden immunity idol. He stuffs it into his shirt and walks back to camp as if nothing happened. Tanner approaches Karen and asks her if she wants to talk with him. She fake smiles at him and says she would rather be run over than talk to him. He scoffs and tells her she can't blame him for anything if she refuses to speak to him. She remains quiet and refuses to look in his direction. Tanner tells her she can make her own bed in that case, and he walks off. Caden sits at the fire pit with Adriana and roasts marshmallows with her. He talks about the crumbled Hupai alliance after last tribal since he was on the receiving end of a split vote instead of Karen. Adriana finds this interesting and asks him to tell her more. He tells her that Anna is extremely untrustworthy because she has Boo Boo, Karen, and Allison wrapped around her finger. Adriana nods and says she has noticed the same thing. At this point, Adriana feels much more connected to Caden since he clearly doesn't have anyone else to work with. Meanwhile, Jaya connects with Anna and Allison on a personal level. Her one goal in mind is to avoid getting voted out as the easy option. Jaya eventually starts a game conversation with the two of them and asks who they would like to see go home first. Neither of them say a name right away, but Anna then hints that she would like to see one of rivals break up. Jaya asks if that refers to her and Adriana, but Anna shakes her head. She says she's thinking more about Eric and Caden because it's very hard to work with either of them. Jaya says that as long as it's not her, she's good with whatever. Karen talks to Mark, a bit panicked about Tanner being around. She tells him she senses that Tanner is throwing her name out there as a voting option. Mark tells her if that's the case, he never heard her name yet. In fact, nobody is throwing out a name right now. Karen doesn't believe people aren't gaming by now. Her instinct is telling her to vote out Tanner at this next vote. Mark says if she gathers enough numbers, he'll be on board. Otherwise, Hupai has the majority right now, so they have all the say right now. Afterwards, Karen rummages through the tribe's trash bin, trying to find an idol for herself. She is unsuccessful and becomes extremely frustrated. Night 17. Karen barges into the conversation that Anna, Caden, Jaya, and Allison are holding. She begins to freak out over Tanner, so all four start to calm her down. Anna asks her what's going on, and Karen says that Tanner is spreading her name around to various people. Jaya's eyes widen as the drama begins to unfold. Anna tells Karen to calm down because freaking out might cause people to vote for her. Karen then has an emotional meltdown and says she refuses to play this game with Tanner present. She asks them dearly to vote him out next tribal because she seriously cannot stand him. Allison rubs Karen's arm and hugs her closely to comfort her. Tanner gathers Boo Boo, Adriana, and Ivy, asking them what's going on with Karen since he's seeing her run around camp a lot to different groups of people. Ivy fills him in that she's extremely paranoid about him. Tanner doesn't understand why she's acting this way if he hasn't done anything to her yet. He only offered to talk to her and they never even ended up talking. Boo Boo says it will take time for her to chill out since she's overrun by emotions. Tanner doesn't feel comfortable regardless since he feels like she'll try to spread his name around. Meanwhile, Jaya fills in Eric that Hupai might plan to target him and Caden. This immediately makes Eric flustered as he starts to theorize that Hupai is throwing him in a ditch even after he flipped in their favor last tribal they went to. Jaya tells him he should have kept Romero, but Eric says he felt like Huhu was already a sinking ship so he wanted to get off of it before it became too late. Jaya says that move might cost all of their games now because they are completely outnumbered in this merge. Eric says that the best they can do is try getting the votes onto Caden. After a long night of sleeping, Tanner decides to play a prank on one of his allies. He chooses Adriana and throws water on her while she's in a deep sleep. Of course, she wakes up in panic, trying to comprehend what just happened. Tanner laughs and claims she got pranked pretty hard. Although she didn't like what he just did, Adriana pretends to laugh along with him. Day 18, and it's time for the reward challenge. Firstly, Justin asks the tribe if they came up with a name, and they all agree on the name Rivei, which means rival in Hawaiian. Justin says he loves the name and then gets right into the reward challenge rules. In this, all 12 players have already answered questions in private about the other castaways. Now, there will be rounds of questions that have already been filled out by them. However, this time, the goal is to pick the answer that came up the most. If incorrect, you are out. The last player standing will win reward. The winner will get to pick one person to send to Cave of Exile to remain isolated from the rest until tomorrow's immunity challenge, giving them a disadvantage as they cannot hold conversations with others for 24 hours. In addition, the winner will have the ability to vote twice at the first merged tribal council of the season, meaning there will be up to 13 votes cast. The challenge begins with round 1. The question is, who is the best provider at camp? Everyone except Ivy and Tanner say Mark, while Ivy and Tanner say Tanner. The correct answer is Mark, therefore Ivy and Tanner are first eliminated. Question 2. Which player is the weakest physically? Allison, Karen, and Jaya answer with Allison, while everyone else says Sarah. The majority answered Sarah, meaning Allison, Karen, and Jaya are all eliminated. Question 3. Who is the most annoying to live with? Everyone answers with Boo Boo and are all correct. For the record, it's his snoring that causes problems. Question 4. Which player is trying the hardest to get more screen time on the show? Everyone answers with Adriana and are all correct. Question 5. Who should be voted out next right before jury? As everyone struggles to answer, they all finally reveal. Eric, Caden, and Sarah answer with Tanner, while Anna, Adriana, Boo Boo, and Mark answer with Caden. The majority answered with Tanner, meaning Anna, Adriana, Boo Boo, and Mark are all eliminated, leaving just 3 players in this challenge. Question 6. Which player most likely has a hidden immunity idol right now? Sarah and Caden put down Adriana as the obvious answer, but Eric decides to put himself. People find his decision dumb as everyone knows about Adriana's public idol. Of course, the answer was Adriana, so Eric is eliminated. Question 7. Who is the biggest threat in the game right now? Caden puts Anna while Sarah puts Tanner. One of them is right and the other is wrong. The correct answer is Tanner, which means Sarah has one reward. She will get to vote twice at the next tribal council. In addition, she must pick someone to send to Cave of Exile where they will remain isolated from the rest until tomorrow's immunity challenge. Sarah apologizes in advance and picks Tanner since he has already experienced what Cave of Exile looks like. Tanner sighs and says he would have loved to spend more time at camp, but he tells her it's fine. Justin then tells Tanner to head to Cave of Exile and he tells the rest of Rivet to head back to camp. At camp, Karen talks to Jaya and tells her what she is thinking for this next vote. She says that she has a clear shot at Tanner right now because of the responses from the reward challenge. He's considered a threat within the game and the majority of people said he should be next to go. Jaya is glad as she doesn't want anyone from Original Hoo to be in danger tomorrow, so Tanner going is their best case scenario. Meanwhile, Ivy talks to Boo Boo and asks him if he feels like Eric is a bigger threat than Caden, and Boo Boo says he does. To him, Caden is a lone wolf, while Eric has relationships with many of the Original Hoo members. What also scares him is how smart Eric is. He thinks Eric threw reward today to keep the threat level off of him and onto Caden and Sarah. Ivy jumps and says that's exactly what she was thinking. They both high-five each other and feel like it's Eric's time to go. Ivy then talks to Adriana to see if she would be on board to vote Eric out next, but Adriana is completely opposed to this plan. She would rather take out Caden or Jaya first since Eric is a number for them now. Ivy shakes her head and says she doesn't trust Eric one bit. He should have stuck with Romero that won tribal council, so he dug his own grave siding with Hupai. Adriana doesn't see any benefits in keeping Caden and Jaya over Eric, but Ivy tells Adriana that Eric is a true game player who says what other people want to hear for his own safety. Adriana continues to disapprove this move and says they should seriously just do Caden or Jaya over Eric. Mark later talks to Boo Boo and hugs him after hearing that the targets seem to be Eric, Caden, Tanner, and Jaya. Boo Boo says he specifically wants to gun for Eric because of how obvious it is he threw the reward challenge today to keep the scent off of him. Mark doesn't really think Eric is that smart to pull that off. He feels like Caden is the bigger threat because he's not that easily manipulated. It shows since Eric flipped on his allies very easily in the second swap. Boo Boo says that either way, there probably should be a split vote plan in place since pretty much everyone wants to take out either Eric, Caden, or Jaya. Adriana talks to Eric and fills him in that people are paranoid about his decision to throw the reward challenge today. He says that's ridiculous since it makes zero sense to throw such a good reward. Adriana says she knows and is trying to keep the votes off of him, but people are still very worried about him. Eric thanks her for filling him in and tells her he wants to share some critical information with her and asks her to keep it a secret between the two of them. She listens and he tells her he has the merge idol. Adriana doesn't believe him until he pulls it out. She is amazed and asks him why he chose himself for the idol question, and he says he didn't realize the answers would be public at the time of answering the questions. Adriana tells him it probably doesn't matter because people aren't theorizing that he has the idol anyway. Night 18. Sarah talks to Mark, reeling him into the Tanner blind side. She tells him they have the numbers to execute it if they can get Caden on board. Mark doesn't know if they truly have the votes, but Sarah tells him not to steer away because she has an extra vote now that can gain them the majority vote. Mark asks her to list who they exactly have, and she says they have her 2 votes, Jaya, Karen, Eric, and Caden. That just leaves Mark. She tells him this is their shot to make things work in their favor, but Mark is very skeptical about Eric since he's obviously working with the other side. Karen later eats dinner with Boo Boo and Anna and asks them if they are down to vote Tanner tomorrow. Anna and Boo Boo look hesitant since he's supposedly loyal to Hupai right now. Karen doesn't want them to consider any other name other than Tanner's since this move is more of a personal benefit for her. She tells them if they truly cared about her, they would listen to her request at least once this season. That time is now. Anna says it's much more complicated right now because they aren't certain with the numbers currently. Karen tells her that they surely have the votes to take out Tanner as long as the two of them agree to it. Anna says if they lose Tanner and keep Eric, Caden, and Jaya, all of a sudden they have a much better chance at getting Adriana and Ivy on their side. Karen tells them she's extremely serious when she says she needs Tanner out. She doesn't know how many more times she needs to say this to them. Everyone eventually goes to bed, meaning it's time for a new day. Day 19. Everyone arrives for the immunity challenge. Justin tells them that Tanner is now coming back from his isolated time at Cave of Exile, so they all watch him walk in. Justin asks Tanner how Exile went for him, and he sarcastically says it was a fun time there. Justin then gets into the challenge rules. In this, everyone will need to continuously hit their sparring machine each time a pad starts to shake. Failing to hit a pad in time will get you eliminated. The last person continuously hitting their pads will win immunity for tonight, safe from the vote. Everyone gets into position and the challenge officially starts. They all start to hit their pads that begin shaking. After only 5 minutes, Karen and Anna tire out and both get eliminated from the challenge from stopping. After that, Eric comes in 10th place as he stops. Not too long after, his rival, Caden, also gets out. Adriana is next to stop, leaving just 7 people in this challenge. Sarah gets eliminated many minutes after, and so does Jaya. Allison gets out next, followed by Boo Boo, who stops after injuring his wrist. This challenge is only down to Ivy, Mark, and Tanner. An hour passes by, and Tanner stops hitting his pads, meaning it's down to Mark and Ivy. Mark comes in 2nd place not long after, meaning Ivy has won individual immunity, safe from tonight's vote. Justin puts the necklace on her and claims she will definitely not be going home tonight. As for the others, someone will be the 9th person voted out of Survivor Rivals. They all make their way back to camp. Back at camp, Allison speaks to Anna, asking her if they have considered all options yet for tonight's vote. Anna says she doesn't see any other option but to vote for Eric and Caden tonight. Allison asks her if Tanner is off the table, and Anna says it's not smart to vote out one of their own so soon. It makes more sense to wait a few more rounds before taking him out. He's going to self-implode anyway. Meanwhile, Jaya fills in Caden about the secret blindside on Tanner. Caden laughs and says it's not so secret since everyone knows Karen is after Tanner tonight. Jaya says it doesn't matter whether it's secret or not. Either way, they need Tanner out tonight to ensure his alliance members don't have control. Caden says he's down. The one issue he has is that Eric is hanging out way too much with Adriana. He doesn't see a world where Eric goes along with this plan, meaning he might vote with that side. Jaya says it's worth a try. If they don't try, they won't succeed in this game. Karen later rants to Mark, Anna, and Boo Boo that she cannot have Tanner stay in this game after tonight. She demands them to vote him tonight so she can live in peace. Mark tells her to calm down because her emotions are getting out of hand. She tells all 3 that she's sick and tired of people telling her to calm down because they don't know her past. They don't know what it was like for her as a teenager when half of her family refused to talk to her ever since she came out as bisexual. They don't know how she feels being around one of those people right now. Karen breaks down and all 3 of them tell her they'll give her some space. Tanner, Eric, and Adriana chat in the meantime, agreeing that they should vote Caden out tonight. Tanner says he lost that connection with Caden ever since the swap hit, so it's ideal for all of them if he went home. Much later in the day, a lot of the tribe gathers around as Tanner decides to confront Jaya after hearing little whispers throughout the day that she has been trying to take him out tonight. She denies that accusation and says he's trying to manipulate everyone again into targeting the weak like her. Instead, people should be concerned over Tanner's leadership ability. He's always in control because everyone refuses to go against him. Tanner fights back and says he's not the voice of 10 other people. Everyone has their own voice, and everyone knows it's best to stay strong together until the very end. Adriana cheers Tanner on in the back as she toys around with Jaya. Jaya stomps away and kicks down the trash bin, yelling across the camp that either this whole camp will be trashed by her, or Tanner will come pick this trash bin up. Tanner eventually goes to pick the bin up, calling Jaya a horrible person. Jaya decides to have some alone time by the fire. She lights the fire but accidentally lights her whole arm on fire. Medics have to step in and assist with her burnt arm. While this is going down, chaos erupts even further at camp as Tanner yells at Karen for throwing his name out there just like Jaya. In fact, he thinks she's the main source for his name floating around. Karen owns up to her move and says she obviously wants him to go home. She doesn't benefit with him staying in this game, especially with him on the jury. Tanner tells her to keep his name out of her mouth because she was never in danger to begin with. She's simply digging a bigger hole for herself. After such a crazy afternoon, night 19 finally hits, and it's time for tribal council. Everyone sits down and Justin begins the discussion. He of course addresses the elephant in the room, and that's Jaya's arm. Her arm is wrapped up after a fire injury, but she confirms she'll be okay. Justin then turns to Ivy and her on the individual immunity win. She thanks him and says she never expected to win one. She's most happy with the fact that she's automatically making jury. Justin then turns to Sarah and says Ivy isn't the only challenge winner in this merge right now. Sarah smiles and says she's glad she was able to pull out a win as well. She's not a challenge threat in general, so winning one meant a lot to her. Justin asks if her extra vote is going to mean anything tonight, and she says it definitely will. Everyone turns to her as she explains how this merged tribe seems to be divided into many sections. So much drama occurred, especially today. It's completely split right now in 4 to 5 groups. Justin asks Tanner if he agrees with that, but he doesn't. He feels like there's two main sides. There's one side after him tonight, while another side is after some original Who members. Justin asks Eric if he thinks his name has been brought up today, and Eric says he wouldn't be surprised if someone did. However, he has already shown where he truly stands right now in the game, so he expects to be repaid by being protected tonight. Mark rolls his eyes in response to that. Justin turns to Caden and asks him if he's worried he could go home tonight since he received 2 votes last tribal council. Caden says he's hearing his name a lot, he's hearing Tanner's name a lot, and he's definitely hearing Eric's name a lot. It's extremely hard to know for sure who the right person to vote for is because one vote could be the ultimate decider tonight. Adriana looks back at Boo Boo and mouths Eric's name. With that, Justin prepares everyone for the vote.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. is using his hidden immunity idol tonight. He is playing this for himself. Any votes for Tanner tonight will not count. I'll read the votes. First vote. Tanner does not count. Tanner does not count. Tanner does not count. Tanner does not count. Eric. That's one vote, Eric. Caden. Eric. 2 votes Eric, 1 vote Caden. Caden. We're tied, 2 votes Eric, 2 votes Caden. Eric. That's 3 votes Eric. Caden. Tied again, 3 votes Eric, 3 votes Caden. Eric. That's 4 votes Eric, 3 votes Caden. Caden. 4 votes Eric, 4 votes Caden, 1 vote left. 9th person voted out of Survivor Rivals. Eric.
Everyone is restless by the extremely split vote, and Eric gets up to go grab his torch. Karen tries to hold back her frustration, knowing Tanner made the jury phase now. Ivy pretends like she feels bad for Eric, though she's really happy on the inside. Eric puts his torch down and watches Justin snuff it. He heads out without a word, and some people wave goodbye. Justin congratulates all 11 remaining players on reaching the jury phase. They all clap and start making their way back to camp. Next time on Survivor Rivals, after a very split vote, everyone tries to figure whether they are on the majority or minority side of the tribe. Plus, with Eric's merge idol now out of the game, a new hidden immunity idol is released. Who will find it first? With Allison ready to flip the game on its head, will she be able to pull off a brilliant move? Or will her game crumble into pieces? Find out on another chaotic, trash-kicking episode on Sunday. Eric's final thoughts. Eric feels very stupid keeping his idol with him. He should have used it after Tanner used his. He thought Caden had the votes to leave, but clearly people flipped. He feels disappointed that he made a move in favor of Hoopai, just for them to kick him out next. It's an extremely dirty play that might not pay off for them moving forward.